Hi, and welcome to the Men on the Path to Love podcast, bonus episode. It's okay to hate your ex with author David Webb. I'm Bill Simpson, your host. I coach men who want to stop suffering in relationship and who want a deeper sense of love and connection. I coach them how to do it and how to be the best version of themselves and live the life they love. In this bonus episode, you'll hear my conversation with an interesting gentleman by the name of David Webb. He shares his own story in divorce recovery and explains what he means by it's okay to hate your ex. You just might be surprised. It's coming up on the Men on the Path to Love podcast. Welcome, David, to Men on the Path to Love.
Bill, thanks for having me. You know, you're on my show and I appreciate it. And I couldn't say no.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me on yours. I want to get into your book. It's okay to hate your ex. I love the title. It's certainly got my attention. And before we get into that, tell me your story. I'm all about stories here on my podcast. So,
all right.
What's your story to get you to where you are today in this book? It's okay to hate your ex.
Well, for a little bit of fun, I was born a poor black child. Because of Mother Bill.
You got me. Okay. Full transparency, I had the same joke on his show, so there we go.
That was a different joke.
I didn't say yes.
Let's start my story with being married 19, 20 years. I had a big part of the marriage breaking up. You know, there's no one has 100%. You know, I own my part. It was contentious. It was brutal. You know, we had to split the practice proceeds and things like that. So it went off 18 months. It was a long time. And through the 18 months, I just grew that hate, you know, for my ex. You know, how dare you do this? How dare you put me through this? How dare you put the kids through this? And I realized it was totally selfish of me to even think about that. So I had a lot of hatred and I didn't know how to handle that. A friend of mine was going downtown Colorado Springs. I'm in Colorado Springs, and she was going to a faith-based divorce recovery seminar, and it wasn't in the best part of town. So she wanted somebody big and ominous to go, and I'm that guy. And it was only $25. So she paid $25 and just wanted me to go, and I ended up getting a lot more than she did. And I was really blessed to make some really good friends, and I healed. I was able to table my anger, but not really get rid of it. So fast forward to Christmas that year, I was at a Christmas party and I saw Scott, and Scott was the divorce recovery seminar head facilitator. And Scott said, "Hey, Dave, you ever think about facilitating?" Hell no, I would never do that, Scott. Never, ever, ever in 100 years. And Scott hounded me for like 6 months. And I finally relented. Man, I facilitated 8 sessions.
Wow. You got out of your comfort zone there.
Oh, man, I got out of my comfort zone. Every time I was getting ready to do a 7-week session, my staff was like, "Seriously, you're going down there to help those people?"
Right.
Like, hell yeah, I'm the man. So every session of my facilitation, I was able to heal more and more. I think it was like-minded people together in a area, and I really was able to tangle my anger and work on my hatred. And I think the culmination of releasing my hatred was forgiveness. You know, that was the pinnacle for me. And I remember I was at I'll never forget it. I was on the border restaurant with some friends, and I texted her and I said, "I forgive you." And then I put on there, no need for a call back or a text back. And man, she blew up my phone.
Wow. Wow.
And I never answered. I just said, "Hey, I forgive you." And that was my culmination of coming to the point where I was able to stop hating my ex.
And that forgiveness, that's such a huge step, man. And more for you than for her. And look what it did to her, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it like threw her for a loop. I mean, she texted me for almost a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, and when you were mentioning about facilitating. I find the work that I do as a relationship coach and my work at my clinical work, I'm doing all this stuff that I'm telling and teaching and coaching my clients and my patients, the same thing I got to do for me. So it
Yep.
reinforces what I have to do. And that facilitation that you did, I would think did that for you.
Oh, definitely. It really helped me. And then I started part two. I started the Divorce Devil podcast
Mhm.
and in 2016. And currently, Rachel, my co-host, and I have 180 episodes, which just blows my mind sometimes when I think about the number 180. And then I started the Don't Pick This Guy podcast for men over 40. And that's how we met.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to push it forward and, create some ebooks. I got another ebook coming out about co-parenting, and I have another ebook coming out about forgiveness. So I'm trying to help men out there. And like I told you before, if I can help one person, then it's worth it. I mean, all this stuff is worth it because right now it's a labor of love.
I'm with you, man. As I say, I'm on a love mission, to spread the love. So let's get into it's okay to hate your ex. Now, I could see some guys going, "Yeah, all right," like, "Okay, let me see what this is all about." And I'm kind of guessing from what you said in your story is that it's not all about that. But go ahead.
Oh. So the subtitle is Embracing and Releasing Ex Resentment After Doing the Sometimes Shit Show Divorce. And the book comes from my point of view. Everyone's different. I see life or life after divorce. Carvana has that big structure of cars and it's kind of like a vending machine.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So your life is different parking levels and a one structure.
Mhm.
So you try to fill those parking spots with positive, but the hatred takes up a couple of parking spots that you need for positivity. So I was able to exchange some of those and lean into the pain, lean into the hatred, and use it for good, go work out, use extra energy, go hiking, biking. I'm an avid biker. I love pickleball. I'm an old guy. And
Mhm. Mhm.
so all those things, and you realize that hatred is not hurt anybody but yourself. Kind of like forgiveness. It's like the cousin of forgiveness. There we go. They're
Yeah.
related. And so both hatred and unforgiveness have the same genotype. Okay, we're getting deep here, Bill. You ready?
Yeah. Go
Uh,
for it, man.
so they have the same genotype, so they have the same relationship. So one kind of exists with the other. And once you let go of one, it's easy to let go of the other. So it's a good thing, but you're not supposed to wallow in it. The hatred is there, and the hatred's not there for everybody. Everybody's different. The people that have the amicable divorces, hallelujah. But 99%, I think there aren't. That's a unicorn.
Well, I can say I'm kind of a unicorn because I've been through three divorces, right? And I don't hate any of them. My first wife, we got married really young, and it was almost like a breakup. We didn't have kids or anything. And then my other two, I had kids, and so because of that, I'm in touch with them. So for the benefit of the child, we all get along.
Oh yeah,
We can go
yeah,
to gatherings. I was just down in the islands celebrating my son's graduation, and my ex was there, and and we got along fine. My wife went with me, and we all get along. Yet it takes a lot of patience, I would say,
correct.
to be able to maintain that kind of thing. And what I'm hearing you say, behind the hate, Dave, is like there's this anger.
Yep.
And one of the things I share with my clients is the soft side of that anger is the hurt. And when I heard you say, how dare you, how you do this to us and do this to me and the
Yeah.
family and all this, there's that anger. And underneath it is, how dare you hurt me? Right?
Mm-hmm. And I think another part too is lack of control.
Mm,
That is huge because when a man goes through a divorce, you don't have much control of it. It's not a control train that you're trying to control. And that frustration, the hate, the pain, the how dare you, that all kind of culminates.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and now I'm just flashing back, to the process. The process wasn't a lot of fun. It wasn't very amicable, I'll have to say, at least, in one of them. And I was making a considerable larger amount of money than she was.
Mhm.
And so she got 60% of the takeaway. And my anger was, that's my money. Well, she's getting 60% of my money. And I remember somebody said to me, no, if you look at the law, it's at least 50% hers when you entered that contract, unless you sign a prenup.
Correct.
Right. So there was a lot of anger, and I had to focus on the child, not on her and our relationship, so that we could be amicable for her, not so much for each other. Hindsight, we get along. It's been, 20 some years, so we get along fine.
Oh yeah. One of my friends, and there's a quote that in the back of the book. It says, "Love your kids more than you hate your ex."
Yeah.
That was the thing that got me through it at first, because I knew that I didn't talk bad about her in front of them, things like that.
Good.
So all the co-parenting things. So so co-parenting kind of filters in that too if you have kids.
Mhm.
And but it was tough. I did the 50-50, and we survived. And people don't realize kids are resilient, man. Kids
Oh,
are
yeah.
way more resilient than people think. People ask me, when should you tell your kids to get divorced? I said, they already know.
Yeah. You don't think?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, and don't stay together for them because
Oh,
of the kids. I
yes.
mean,
Bill, yes. Preach,
my,
Bill, preach.
I'll never
Oh,
forget when I was in therapy, and my ex and I had been through couples therapy. She had 4 kids. We had a kid together, and my therapist said, "Why are you staying?" I said, "Well, because of the kids." And she goes, "Okay, I want you to be your kids, and I'm going to be you. I'm not happy in this relationship, and I'm going to stay because of you."
yep. The blame transfers.
When I felt that as a kid, I'm like, "Don't do me any favors, right?"
Yep.
It's like, no. And that was the light bulb that went off for me to say, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not staying in it for the kids, because they know, like you said, they know that
Yep.
it's not working.
All you're doing is showing them how to survive in a dysfunctional relationship.
Exactly. And you're
And
modeling that for them.
yeah. And the one thing we talk about too is I'm a second generational divorcee. So my parents are divorced.
Mine
So
too.
when I got divorced, that angst and that blame was hard on me, because it's like, man, that's 2 generations. What happens to the third generation? It's a hope for my children. And I had to eventually let that go, because that wasn't my battle. That's their battle. But
Mhm.
that was hard for me to get through. It's like, man, am I being a good parent? But I tell the men out there, just be the best parent you can be. When you're co-parenting, going through crap, when you have your kids. And another thing too that people say on Reddits and Facebook pages, men out there have a hard time not being able to control what happens at mom's house. Let it go, dude.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's really hard.
Oh,
And
it's hard for men to let it go.
yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, because you want to control everything and you can't.
Yep.
And the moment you can let that go, you're
Yep.
gonna free yourself. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because there's nothing you can do about it.
Not a damn thing.
Mm-mm. Unless there's something, serious going on that you need to get some intervention,
Right.
child services, that kind of thing. Just because they let them do whatever, then that's not a reason to try to control things.
I think another thing too with my hate, that it really skewed my view or my way to operate, like work, friendships, my interaction with my kids. I saw I was quick to react. I saw I was a different person. And letting go of that hate, you kind of come back to the realization that you're back to where you should be,
Hmm.
because you're almost wearing a coat, like a coat of hate, and it affects you doing everything, sleeping, awake, working. I mean, every facet of your life is part of that cape.
Yeah, it eats you alive and it brings everything down. It's all that negativity. And who does it serve?
Yep.
What good does it do to have all that hatred and anger? Forgive and let go for you. And hopefully the other person well, they'll do what they do. You can't control that, right?
Correct.
You were saying about being a second generation divorcee or whatever. I was pretty young when my parents divorced, and I had this ideology that I'm never going to get divorced,
Mm-hmm.
and because I don't want my kids or whatever to go through it. That was such bullshit because
You
Look, I went through it three
overcompensate.
times. I'm like, "Ah, I don't know about that, Bill."
Overcompensation.
Yeah. And then
I'm
when
going
my
to
wife, my current wife met me, she found out that I'd been divorced three times and she goes, "Well, at least you believe in marriage."
It
Yeah.
is the glass half full or half empty?
That's right. That's
Oh,
right.
definitely.
Yeah.
Writing this book was, I don't think it was cathartic, but it's something I've been thinking about. And that title's been on my brain for over a year.
Mm.
And I finally put pen to paper, and it was so exciting to upload it to Amazon. And then I actually have a copy here.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. And I'll send it to you. Just touching it, it's kind of like a new baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one thing to see a digital version of it or see it on a screen, but to actually touch it and hold it and open it and smell it and all those
Oh
things.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's
So,
really cool. I
you
love it.
know, it's available on Kindle, and I want to branch out to like forgiveness, like I said, forgiveness, and then into co-parenting, because those two spaces are huge for men over 40,
Yeah.
and we struggle with all three of those: hate, forgiveness, and co-parenting.
Yeah, well, that's great stuff you're doing. And, I'm thinking about your title, it's okay to hate your ex. And the way I'm going to interpret that is we can't control that we hate somebody. We can't control those feelings. And it's okay that you have those feelings. They're valid feelings. And honor those feelings. You don't have to act on those feelings,
Oh yeah, yeah.
you
There's
know.
a disclaimer in the book. Oh yeah, don't act on them. Oh
Right.
yeah.
And it's okay. I mean, go out in the woods and break some sticks or, scream out in the middle of nowhere or whatever, but you don't have to act on it. So it's okay to have those feelings, is what I'm hearing you
Oh,
say.
oh, definitely. And you have to. Men have a hard time, as you know, even expressing their feelings, or even leaning into or expressing their feelings, because over the years that men don't cry, men are strong, this, that,
Yeah.
and the other, men don't feel. And it's a new world, man. When 50% of the people are getting divorced, men need to sit back and say, hey, I have feelings, I feel like crap, I need to express this, and maybe I need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Men, therapy to men is like kryptonite
Hmm.
most of the time.
Yeah, and that's, sometimes with what I do as a coach, it's a softer landing than going up against therapy. And not to knock therapy, because therapy saved me from a lot of stuff. Having someone to support you and maybe understand where you've come from and validate what you're going through, and also say, hey, you can change. If you want to change, you can. And if what you're doing is not working, well, are you going to keep on doing that, or are you going to make a change?
I always wonder about the chicken and the egg. I have a hard time thinking about, can a therapist who's never been divorced be a good divorce recovery therapist? I've always thought
Yeah.
about that.
Well, and even just going through their own personal growth journey, you can academically have all the theory and everything you want, but if you can't connect and relate, you haven't been through something to know, that's a whole different level of connecting.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
always think about that sometimes.
Yeah. And it's not to say that those can't, it's
Yep.
just I know I feel better when even my therapist would say she would support me in saying, yeah, well, here's how I'm going to support you. And she would give a snippet of, her life. And then I'm like, oh, okay. I can believe her. I can trust her because she's telling me a little bit about what she's been through and she understands my world a little bit better.
Correct.
That kind of thing. Well, David, I'm going to have a link to your book and everything in the show notes, but tell people right now how they can get a hold of that book.
You can go to Amazon Kindle and plug in It's Okay to Hit Your Ex with apostrophe IT apostrophe S. It's Okay to Hit Your Ex, and it should pop up. Have the one podcast, divorcedevil.net. And then the other podcast is don'tpickthescab.com. You can find all those on the internet. And I got so much going on in my brain right now.
Yeah, you're a busy guy and your brain's busy.
Amazing.
And I love that title of your podcast, Don't Pick the Scab. I got to ask you, how did you come up with that?
I thought about it. The first version was Divorce Recovery Men Over 40 from the website, and it was so bland.
Mhm.
I said, just like it's okay to hate your ex, I said, I need a pal. And I said, what do little boys or men do all the time? bam, pick the scab. Always pick the scab. You pick that scab and you have that hope it doesn't bleed.
There you go, right?
And pick that last little part, and it's like, damn it, it bled. But yeah, so men are picking the scab all the time, trying to heal. I've talked to quite a few men, and men are getting better,
Yeah.
reaching out. And one of the therapists I talked to a couple of weeks ago said, if you Google men in divorce, there's not hardly anything out there, but women in divorce, there's like a ton.
Right.
Rows and rows of stuff. So,
Yeah.
men like you and me are out there trying to fix that. And that's my superpower, man. I'm trying to fix that.
There you go. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate your efforts, man. Before we part, any last minute words you want to share?
Don't suppress your feelings. Lean into them. It's okay to hate your ex, just for a little while. Don't wallow in that. If time-wise, give it a week, a day, a month, but don't wallow in that, because you're just going to eat yourself up inside. Don't stay for the kids. God, man, everything we talked about. Just self-care. Practice self-care. Self-care is the biggest healing, I think, of any divorce recovery. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your kids.
That's right.
It's kind of like the plane. The plane's going down, the O2 masks come out, you put your kid's mask on first and you pass out and die. You're screwed. Yeah.
Right.
So it's so simple sometimes, and people don't realize how simple it is, but take care of yourself.
It's simple, yet hard to execute. And
Yep.
you just got to keep trying, keep at it, and you'll do it for sure. Well, David Webb, thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to talk about what you do, and thank you for the book. Yep, there it is. It's okay to hate your ex.
Oh,
We'll get all that information in the show notes as well. Thanks so much. I wish you continued success in all that you're doing for us men out here.
well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate your time.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Men on the Path to Love podcast. It's okay to hate your ex episode. Thanks once again to my guest, David Webb. You'll find all of David's contact information in the show notes. Coming up on the next episode, have you ever found yourself getting annoyed or irritated when your spouse or partner does little things that drive you crazy? Like leave their clothes all over the place, or letting dishes pile up, or change plans without telling you, that kind of thing? Well, they're not done on purpose, like being passive-aggressive is. It's just those annoying things. Or maybe you're constantly being yelled at for doing these things. They're called micro-stressors. In the next episode, you'll hear Dino's story and how he and his wife Dana managed their micro-stressors before it was too late. Please join me for the Little Things, Big Problems, How to Handle Micro-Stress in Relationship episode. Now, if you have an idea for the show, or have an issue in your relationship you need help with, or would like to experience a free coaching session with me on how to communicate better in your relationship, visit my website at menonthepathtolove.com. You can also download my free cheat sheet, 5 Ways to Communicate Better in Relationship. It's all at menonthepathtolove.com. So, I'm all about spreading the love, right? That's what I do. I'm the love master. So I'm asking you to share this podcast with those you love, those you hate, anybody, everybody, social media. Come on, y'all. Share the link and share the love. And until next time, keep your heart open and stay on the path to love.